Glück. Opening narration lines across forests, meadows, rivers and wetlands. An unseen world is at work. A world so small that most of its inhabitants pass unnoticed, yet so important that every living ecosystem depends upon them. Glück. From the first flower of spring to the richest forests on earth, countless tiny creatures quietly perform the tasks that keep nature alive. They pollinate flowers, recycle nutrients. Glück. Enrich the soil, control populations, and become food for countless other animals. Each individual may seem insignificant, but together they form an invisible network that supports life across our planet. Glück. Without them, flowers would bloom in silence. Forests would struggle to renew themselves. The delicate balance of nature would slowly begin to unravel. For millions of years, these tiny guardians have worked without recognition. Glück. Shaping the natural world one small act at a time. Today, we begin a journey into their remarkable lives. A journey that reveals how the smallest creatures often carry the greatest responsibilities. Welcome to the Tiny Guardians. Part 1. The Makers of Life. The pollinators dry long before fruits begin to ripen, before seeds are carried by the wind, and before new forests take root. A remarkable partnership quietly unfolds. Glück. It begins with a flower to us. Flowers are symbols of beauty, but in nature they are carefully engineered invitations offering nectar and pollen in exchange for a service that no plant can perform alone. Glück. Every morning, as sunlight warms the landscape, countless pollinators awaken. Honeybees leave their hives with astonishing precision, guided by sunlight, scent, and memory. Butterflies drift gracefully from flower to flower. Glück. While hoverflies, beetles, moths, and many other insects join this invisible workforce. Each visit may last only a few seconds, yet during that brief moment, tiny grains of pollen cling to delicate legs. Glück. Wings or bodies before being carried to the next blossom. This simple exchange allows plants to reproduce. Without it, many flowers would never become fruit, and many seeds would never begin the next generation of life. Glück. Across the world, pollination sustains an extraordinary diversity of ecosystems. Wildflowers color mountain meadows. Forest trees produce seeds that will become tomorrow's woodland. Glück. Countless plants provide food and shelter for birds, mammals, reptiles, and insects alike. The journey of a single grain of pollen may seem insignificant, but multiplied by millions of flowers and billions of insects, Glück. It becomes one of the greatest forces sustaining life on Earth. Every apple, berry, cherry, pumpkin, sunflower, and countless other plants begin their story with a successful encounter between a flower and a pollinator. Glück. This partnership has evolved over millions of years. Some flowers bloom only at night to welcome moths. Others produce colors visible only to bees. Many release fragrances at precisely the right moment. Glück. Attracting the insects best suited to carry their pollen. Together, flowers and pollinators have shaped one another through evolution, forming relationships found nowhere else in nature. Glück. Their work is quiet, there is no audience, no applause, yet every day these tiny travelers help create forests, fields, harvests, and habitats that sustain countless forms of life. Glück. Every visit to a flower is more than a search for nectar. It is another step in the endless story of life itself. 2, the garden keepers. Nature's recyclers. Drei in nature, nothing is wasted. Every fallen leaf, every broken branch, every abandoned nest, and every lifeless creature becomes the beginning of something new. Look, what appears to be the end of life is, in reality, the start of another journey. Hidden beneath leaves and within the soil, an extraordinary community of tiny recyclers is constantly at work. Glück. Dung beetles roll and bury animal waste, returning valuable nutrients deep into the ground. Termites slowly break apart dead wood that once stood as towering trees, allowing forests to renew themselves. Glück. Ants carry away fragments of plants and insects, cleaning the forest floor while enriching the soil beneath their colonies. Countless fly larvae, beetles, springtails, and other small invertebrates feed on decaying organic matter. Glück. Transforming it into rich humus that nourishes new growth. Together, these tiny workers perform one of nature's most essential services. Without them, dead plants and animals would accumulate year after year. Nutrients would remain locked away, unable to return to the living world. The fertile soil that supports forests, grasslands, and wetlands would gradually lose its ability to sustain new life. Glück. Instead, every fallen leaf becomes food. Every fallen tree becomes shelter. Every natural ending becomes the foundation for another beginning. This endless recycling has shaped Earth's ecosystems for hundreds of millions of years. Glück. The nutrients released by these tiny creatures are absorbed by roots. Plants grow stronger. Flowers bloom once again. Fruits develop. Seeds are scattered across the landscape. Glück. The cycle continues without pause. Most people never notice these quiet gardeners. Their work happens beneath the forest floor, inside rotting logs, under stones, and among layers of fallen leaves. Glück. There are no dramatic displays, no powerful predators, only patient, continuous labor that keeps the living world healthy. Every handful of fertile soil carries the fingerprints of countless tiny lives. Glück. Every thriving forest depends upon creatures that rarely receive our attention. They remind us that even decay has a purpose, because in nature, death is never simply an ending. Glück. It is the beginning of new life, and hidden within that transformation, nature's smallest recyclers quietly keep the world alive. Part 3, the silent hunters. Keeping populations in balance, dry nature is often imagined as a peaceful place. Yet, beneath every leaf, above every meadow, and across every pond. Glück. Another story unfolds. It is the story of predators and prey. For millions of years, countless insects have evolved into remarkably skilled hunters, not to dominate the natural world. Glück. But to preserve its balance, a dragonfly patrols the air with extraordinary precision, intercepting flying insects in a fraction of a second. A praying mantis waits motionless among leaves. Glück. Relying on patience rather than speed until the perfect moment arrives. Beneath the surface of a quiet pond, a giant water bug remains almost invisible, sensing the slightest vibration before launching a lightning-fast ambush. Glück. Ladybugs quietly search among leaves, consuming aphids that would otherwise overwhelm young plants. Ground beetles roam the forest floor after dark, hunting soft-bodied insects hidden beneath fallen leaves. Glück. Each predator has developed its own unique strategy. Some rely on camouflage, others depend on incredible eyesight, sensitive antennae, or lightning-fast reflexes. Some pursue their prey across open spaces. Glück. While others wait for hours without moving, conserving energy for a single decisive strike. Although these encounters may seem harsh, they are essential to the health of every ecosystem. Glück. Without predators, herbivorous insects could multiply unchecked, stripping leaves, flowers, and crops faster than plants can recover. Entire habitats would lose the balance that allows countless species to coexist. Glück. Predators help prevent any single species from becoming too abundant. In doing so, they protect the diversity upon which healthy ecosystems depend. Their influence reaches far beyond the insects they hunt. Glück. Healthier plants support more pollinators. Stable insect populations provide reliable food for birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and mammals. Every successful hunt sends ripples through the web of life. Glück. Remarkable. These hunters are also part of that same web. Dragonflies become food for birds. Mantises are hunted by reptiles and larger insects. Even the most efficient predator may one day become prey. Glück. In nature, no creature stands above the system it helps maintain. Every hunter is also part of a greater balance. These silent predators do not hunt out of cruelty. They hunt because life depends on life. Glück. With every patient ambush, every precise pursuit, and every successful capture, they help maintain the delicate equilibrium that has sustained Earth's ecosystems for millions of years. Glück. They are not the rulers of nature, they are its quiet guardians of balance. Part for the architects. Masters of construction agree some of nature's greatest achievements are not built by large animals. They are created by creatures no bigger than a fingertip. Glück. Across forests, grasslands, wetlands, and deserts, tiny architects are constantly shaping the world around them. Without blueprints or machines, they construct homes that protect their colonies. Glück. Regulate temperature, store food, and withstand the changing seasons. Leafcutter ants build vast underground cities with countless chambers connected by intricate tunnels. Within these hidden networks, Glück. Each chamber serves a purpose: nurseries for young larvae, storage rooms for food, and carefully maintained gardens where fungi are cultivated as a reliable source of nourishment. Glück nearby. Termites raise towering mounds that can stand for decades. Although they appear solid from the outside, their interiors contain an astonishing system of passages and ventilation shafts. Glück. Warm air rises through the center while cooler air is drawn in below, creating a natural climate control system that keeps the colony remarkably stable despite extreme temperatures outside. Glück. Honeybees construct perfect hexagonal honeycombs with extraordinary precision. Each wax cell is built using the least possible material while providing maximum strength and storage space. Glück. Within these delicate structures, honey is preserved, pollen is stored, and new generations of bees begin their lives. Many solitary insects are builders as well. Mason bees seal their nests with mud. Glück. Potter wasps shape tiny clay vessels to protect their young. Caddisfly larvae gather grains of sand, tiny pebbles and fragments of plants. Glück. Weaving them into protective underwater shelters that are both strong and beautifully adapted to their surroundings. Every structure reflects millions of years of evolution. Each design solves a specific challenge, finding shelter. Glück. Protecting offspring, conserving energy, or surviving harsh environments. There is no architect giving instructions, no leader drawing plans. Glück. Complex structures emerge through countless simple actions performed by individuals working together or guided by instinct. These constructions do more than shelter their builders. Glück termite mounds enrich surrounding soils. Ant tunnels loosen and aerate the ground, allowing water and oxygen to reach plant roots. Bee colonies support flowering plants through pollination while providing food for many other species. Glück. Even abandoned nests become homes for spiders, beetles, reptiles, and countless smaller creatures. Their creations continue to serve life long after the original builders have gone. Glück. To human eyes, these insects may seem insignificant, yet they're engineering rivals, some of the most efficient designs found anywhere in nature, with patience, cooperation, and remarkable instinct. Glück. These tiny architects reshape landscapes, one grain of soil, one drop of wax, and one fragment of leaf at a time. Their greatest structures are not monuments to themselves. They are living foundations that help entire ecosystems thrive. Glück, Part 5, The Transformers. Nature's endless cycle of change. Very few stories in nature are as extraordinary as the story of transformation. For many insects, life is not a single continuous journey. Glück. Instead, it is a series of remarkable stages, each perfectly adapted to a different purpose. A butterfly begins life as a tiny egg, almost invisible on the underside of a leaf. Glück. Soon, a caterpillar emerges with one simple mission to eat, grow, and store enough energy for the incredible change ahead. When the time is right, it forms a chrysalis from the outside. Glück. Everything appears still, yet inside, one of nature's most astonishing transformations is taking place. The crawling caterpillar gradually becomes a winged butterfly, ready to explore an entirely new world. Glück. Dragonflies follow a different path. Their young spend months, sometimes even years, beneath the surface of ponds and streams. As aquatic hunters, they breathe underwater and capture small prey with remarkable speed. Glück. Then, on a quiet morning, they climb from the water. Their skin slowly splits open, revealing an adult dragonfly with shimmering wings. Within hours, a creature that once lived entirely underwater takes flight through the open sky. Glück. Other insects undergo transformations just as remarkable. Beetles, bees, flies, and many wasps all pass through distinct life stages, each with its own role and purpose. Some stages focus on feeding. Glück. Others specialize in growth, survival, reproduction, or dispersal. Each stage contributes to the success of the next. Transformation is more than a change in appearance. It allows insects to reduce competition within their own species. Glück. Larvae and adults often eat different foods, occupy different habitats, and face different predators. By dividing their lives into separate stages, they make better use of the world's resources while increasing their chances of survival. Glück. This strategy has helped insects become one of the most diverse and successful groups of animals on Earth. For over 400 million years, they have adapted to changing climates, evolving landscapes, Glück, and countless environmental challenges. Their ability to change has allowed them not only to survive but to flourish. Every transformation is a reminder that nature is never truly still. Glück. Beneath a leaf, inside a cocoon, or hidden beneath the surface of the water, unseen changes are unfolding every moment. Life is constantly renewing itself. Generation after generation. Glück. Season after season. Through transformation, the smallest creatures reveal one of nature's greatest truths. Change is not the end of life. It is the way life continues. Glück. Part 6. The Survivors. Ingenious strategies for life. 3. Life in the natural world is filled with constant challenges. Every day brings the search for food, the threat of predators. Glück. Changing weather and fierce competition for space. To survive, insects have evolved an astonishing variety of strategies, each one refined over millions of years by natural selection. Glück. Some disappear without ever leaving. A stick insect becomes almost indistinguishable from the branch on which it rests. A leaf insect mirrors the color, veins, and even the imperfections of a living leaf. Glück. Many moths resemble pieces of bark, while countless caterpillars imitate twigs, bird droppings, or curling leaves. Their greatest defense is simply remaining unseen. Others survive by warning potential predators. Glück. The brilliant colors of ladybugs, firebugs, and many poisonous insects serve as unmistakable signals. Their vivid patterns announce a simple message: I am not worth eating. Predators soon learn to recognize these warnings. Glück. Avoiding them after only a few unpleasant encounters. Some harmless insects take this strategy even further. Hoverflies, for example, closely resemble bees or wasps despite lacking a powerful sting. Glück. By imitating dangerous species, they gain protection without possessing the same weapons. It is one of nature's most remarkable examples of deception, when camouflage and mimicry fail. Glück. Speed becomes the next line of defense. Grasshoppers launch themselves into the air with explosive leaps. Dragonflies change direction in an instant. Water striders glide effortlessly across the surface of ponds. Glück. Escaping danger before it can reach them. Other insects rely on armor. Beetles carry hardened wing covers that shield their delicate bodies. Many burrow beneath the soil, hide inside wood. Glück. Or remain safely concealed until darkness falls. Even their life cycles are carefully timed. Some emerge only for a few weeks each year, synchronized with rainfall, blooming flowers. Glück. Or the arrival of ideal temperatures. Others spend months or even years waiting underground until conditions are favorable. Survival is not determined by strength alone. It depends upon adaptation. Glück. Each strategy represents a unique solution to the challenges of life. Together, these countless adaptations have allowed insects to thrive in deserts, rainforests, mountains, wetlands, Glück, grasslands, and even the coldest regions of our planet. They have survived mass extinctions, dramatic climate shifts, and changing continents long before humans ever appeared. Glück. Their resilience is written into every wing, every antenna, every instinct, and every behavior. Through patience, innovation, and extraordinary adaptability, these tiny survivors continue to endure. Glück. They remind us that in nature, survival does not always belong to the strongest. More often, it belongs to those who are best able to adapt to a changing world. 7. The keepers of balance. The tiny guardians of Earth's ecosystems. 3. No living creature exists alone. Every forest, meadow, wetland, river and field is connected by an intricate web of relationships. Glück. Where the survival of one species often depends upon countless others. Within this living network, insects occupy nearly every role imaginable. Some pollinate flowers, allowing plants to reproduce. Glück. Others recycle fallen leaves and dead wood, returning nutrients to the soil. Predatory insects prevent populations from growing beyond the limits of their environment. Countless species become food for birds. Glück. Fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and even other insects. Together they form the foundation of ecosystems across the planet. The disappearance of a single species may seem insignificant. Glück. Yet every loss sends ripples through the web of life. Fewer pollinators mean fewer flowers and fewer fruits. Declining insect populations leave birds with less food to raise their young. Glück. Reduced decomposition slows the return of nutrients to the soil, affecting the growth of forests and grasslands alike. Nature depends not on the dominance of one species, but on the balance between many. Glück. This balance has been refined over millions of years. Each organism performs its own role, often without awareness of the countless lives it supports. A bee searching for nectar is also carrying the future of flowering plants. Glück. A dung beetle burying waste is enriching the soil for tomorrow's forests. A dragonfly hunting mosquitoes is helping maintain healthy aquatic ecosystems. Even the smallest action can influence an entire community of life. Glück. Scientists estimate that insects represent the majority of known animal species on Earth. Their diversity is extraordinary, but their true importance lies not in their numbers. Glück. It lies in the countless connections they create. They link plants to animals, soil to forests, water to land, life to life. When these connections remain healthy, ecosystems become more resilient. Glück. Forests recover after storms, grasslands continue to bloom, rivers support rich communities of aquatic life. Every species, no matter how small, strengthens the stability of the whole. Glück. These tiny creatures rarely receive recognition. They ask for nothing. They simply continue the work they have performed for hundreds of millions of years. Quietly, patiently, Glück. Relentlessly. They are the unseen engineers, caretakers, hunters, recyclers, builders and survivors whose combined efforts keep the natural world in balance. They are, in every sense of the word, the tiny guardians of our living planet. Part 8. The Web of Life. Every small creature matters. Two onto our journey began with creatures so small they are often overlooked. Yet, along the way, they revealed a truth that is impossible to ignore. Glück. The natural world is not sustained by a few great animals alone. It is supported by countless small lives, each performing a role that no other species can fully replace. A bee carrying pollen. Glück. A beetle returning nutrients to the soil. A dragonfly patrolling a quiet pond. An ant building tunnels beneath the forest floor. Each action may seem insignificant on its own. Glück. But together they create the living systems that nourish forests, protect rivers, enrich fields, and sustain life across our planet. Nature does not depend on size. It depends on connection. Glück. Every flower is linked to a pollinator. Every tree is rooted in healthy soil. Every bird, frog, fish and mammal depends directly or indirectly on the invisible work of these tiny creatures. Glück. When one thread is weakened, the entire web begins to feel the strain. But when every species is allowed to fulfill its role, life continues in remarkable balance for hundreds of millions of years. Glück. Insects have quietly shaped the earth long before humans appeared. Their legacy surrounds us in every forest that grows, every harvest that ripens, every stream that remains healthy. Glück, and every ecosystem that continues to thrive. Perhaps the greatest lesson they offer is one of humility. The smallest lives can have the greatest impact. Glück. And the future of our natural world depends not only on protecting its largest and most spectacular animals, but also on safeguarding the countless tiny guardians that work unseen every single day. Glück. Because when every small creature matters, the whole world continues to live. Glück. Watch next 30 seconds, the journey doesn't end here. There are still countless stories waiting to be discovered. Join us as we explore the secret lives of giant water bugs, the incredible world of dragonflies. Glück. The remarkable partnership between bees and flowers, and many other fascinating creatures that shape our planet every day. Click on one of the videos on your screen and continue discovering the hidden wonders of nature with us. Glück, we'll see you in the next adventure.